and welcome to another episode of the Studio 78 podcast. I am your host, Nache from NacheSnow.com and the author of the Life Cleanse Journal. Welcome to the studio, people. All right, so I have another amazing guest this week, and I promise you guys, once you hear this episode, you are going to take action on whatever you've been procrastinating on. Like, she is just evidence that if you just say, I'm going to do it, and you do it, magical things can happen. But before we get to the episode, I just want to let you guys know what I've been up to for the last 2 weeks. It's been absolutely amazing, incredible, life-changing. I mean, just love it. So I, about a week ago, went to this conference called Craftcation, put on by the ladies of Dear Handmade Life. Basically, it's half business and half making stuff. So if you go over to my Instagram account at Nache Snow, you will see, like, I made a bowl, I made enamel jewelry, I did watercolor. I made so much stuff. I was in heaven. Y'all know I like making stuff. I love it. And I also took some amazing business courses. Like, I took this enamel pen business course, and for sure, y'all, I'm coming up with an enamel pen this year with some cool saying because I'm addicted to it. And I'm like, I need to have one of my own that I can like sell on my website. So know that's coming. But it was just life-changing because it really brought it home to me, like, that I love makers, crafters, creators. Like, I already knew that, but to be surrounded by almost 500 other makers and crafters, and you're just talking about creative businesses, and you're talking about how you made stuff and crafted stuff, it just really brought that home. And that can only happen when you're surrounded by your people. Like, I'm like, these are my people. Makers and crafters are my people. And so it was just magical. I absolutely loved it. And I just want to give a huge shout out to Kathy Cornwell. She actually sent me a direct message on Instagram at the end of last year. And she's like, Nache, I'm going to this conference. And she's like, I think you should go. Like, this is like kind of right up your alley. And when she sent that message, I was like, oh, I've heard of that conference before, but you know how you see a conference and you're like, maybe, one day I'll go. But I took her sending me that message as a sign. And since I decided several years ago that I was going to invest in myself with one item every year, I was like, this is my thing for 2019. I'll invest in this. And man, I am so glad I did. So huge shout out to her. Definitely check her out if you need an editor. Kathy Cornwell, Cornwell, and it's Kathy with a K. I'm just so glad she reached out to me. But anywho, to learn more or see really what I did while at Craftcation, just go over to my Instagram account, check out the pictures from like last week or like the week before-ish, and you'll see all the things I made. And I tagged some of the cool creative people that I met. It's like these women doing like amazing things, from creating jewelry to, I had met somebody that was all about productivity. I met people who are letterers. I met people, I just met all kind of creative women doing their thing. And it was just amazing. So enough about that, but I'm a super fan. They already have dates for the next one, which is in April of 2020, same place, Ventura, California. And I will probably go back. So I'm like, I don't even know how I'm going to do this next year. Am I going to invest in myself twice? I don't know. But it was just amazing. So definitely check that out. And also, I last week was part of the Product Powerhouse Summit put on by Boss Project. And that was really cool. So it was a summit for product-based businesses. And I did a session on how to organize your life to make time for your passion. And wow, I had such a great time in the chat. Some of you guys have already started following me on social and signed up for the newsletter. Hey, and listening to the podcast. It was very cool. And after getting like several private messages from people who were telling me that they were going to implement their strategy, I had a talk with a good friend again, and she's like, man, yeah, you need to do a class. And I was like, I do. So if you head on over to nachesnow.com/time, I am going to do a paid class on time management for creative people. It will be everything I know on time management. You guys know I work a demanding 9-to-5 job, and then I do all the things on weekends to include podcasts, creating videos, doing worksheets, also doing my hobbies like punch needle, which you can see over at Creative Route, and while also, making time for friends and family, making time to go to my favorite stationery stores, making time to go to my favorite restaurants, right? And, just the practical things like checking my mail, cleaning my house, so I really over the years have figured out a system that works for me. I have taken advice from different experts and, made it where it fits into the processes and systems that I've set up. And I want to do that for other people because if, they always, in all the business classes, they always ask like, what problem do you solve? And to me, that is the problem I solve for creative people, is helping them figure out how to get more time in their life to do the things that they love. So I'm like, you know what? Okay, let me just do a class. So anywho, head on over to nachesnow.com/time, and you could get the class half off. I'm doing a pre-sale, and if I get enough pre-sales, then I'll have the class ready by the 2nd of June. But I just wanted, before I pour my love and attention into creating videos, creating worksheets, creating animations, because you guys know, like, when I do it, I try to really do it up. I'm very thorough with what I create. And so before I really, spend my nights and weekends just doing just that, I just want to make sure there is enough people invested and interested in it. So if you are, head on over there. If you just go, directly there and you don't see it for half off, and this depends, of course, when you're listening to this, you can put in the code half off. All right. Okay. So that was a lot. I know. But now back to Jennifer. Jennifer is amazing. She has written 2 books. One, which was a poetry and short story book that was, it became a #1 bestseller on Amazon. And her current children's book, which is called I Am Unique. So we just talk all about the self-publishing game and why she decided to create a book about self-love. And then she also gives tips for independent authors. She asks you, what are you willing to do to get your idea out there to the world? And she gives 4 marketing strategies that have worked for her. So when I tell you this episode is gold, it is gold. So if you want a synopsis of all the things that she has talked about after you listen, go to nachesnow.com/81. And there you'll get the Cliff Notes, but you'll also get all the links that we've mentioned in this episode. So definitely head on over there for all the things. But anywho, let's get to it. All right. Hello, Jennifer. Welcome to the Studio 78 podcast.
Hi, Nache. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Can't wait to dig into your story and learn more about I Am Unique. But before we dive into that, can you just tell the listeners a little bit about you before you started your company?
So before I started, I was thinking, I think the aha moment that really jump-started my creative and writing career happened in December 31st, 2012. And that's when I heard Bishop Dale Bronner for New Year's Eve. He had a sermon. Bishop Dale Bronner said, "Don't die with your gift still on the inside of you. Impart to others what was entrusted to you." And that was just something that really changed the trajectory of my career. I was working in HR, and I always knew I wanted to do more and be more with my life. I felt like I wasn't really living my full potential. And so when I heard him say that, I felt like that was my call to actually start sharing my gifts and writing. So in 2013, the start of 2013, I compiled all my poems and short stories that I had written from age 6 to 26, and ended up publishing it in 2014 and it becoming an Amazon bestseller. But while I was putting together the poetry book, I had the idea for I Am Unique. I wanted to write something that was inspired by my childhood insecurity. And I said, oh, well, maybe I could do something pertaining to that. And I thought of the characters. So I just quickly wrote an outline so I wouldn't forget the initial vision, but at the same time, I wanted to focus on the poetry book. So I had jotted down a few notes and then saved it on my flash drive and continued writing the poetry book. So when it was published in 2014, I was thinking to myself, okay, well, I have this HR career and I'm trying to climb the corporate ladder. And then I also have this creative aspect about me. So I thought that I could have the best of both worlds, where I could just, if I focus on my HR career, I could at least, if I feel unfulfilled, I have this creative outlet. And so that's what I did in 2014. And then in 2015, I just had a change of heart because I felt like I was being unappreciated at work. And one of the managers actually had said something that was like my second aha moment. The first one was, from the bishop, don't die with your gifts on the inside of you, impart to others what was entrusted to you. But in 2015, my manager I had a difference in opinion about my performance review. And I had a conversation with the managers and I told them, hey, I don't agree with the 3 that I got. And a 3, I don't know if you're familiar with the rating system, but at that particular place, a 1 is an unsuccessful contributor, a 5 is exemplary, and a 3 is just a successful contributor. But I felt like the work that I did in 2014 I was going above and beyond. So I had that discussion with them, and I told them I feel really unmotivated, and I gave them examples of how I went above and beyond the prior year. And one of the managers said, Jennifer, you're a great worker. We don't want you to feel unmotivated, but your contributions didn't directly impact the business. That was the second kind of call to focus on myself and bet on myself. And when that happened, that was 2015, I thought, if I can't make an impact in this business or in this department, then I can create my own impact. And that's when I went and pulled out that flash drive with the outline, the I Am Unique outline, and started fleshing out the ideas and writing the children's book. And later in 2016, it was published. And I've been working on it ever since.
So much to unpack there.
Yeah, it's a lot. It was a lot. Yeah.
So let's go back to your book of poems, because I know there are a lot of people out there who might have poems or short story or whatever that might be, and they're just like, oh, I'm just not sure even how to get started. So for you, I believe, since you said it was a bestseller on Amazon, you went the self-publishing route. So can you just walk us through like how you decided where you wanted to publish, why you decided, not to go with like, a traditional publisher, like your whole thought process during that time?
So during the time, I wanted to create something that I could own, and I wanted to have creative control of my work because it was coming from such a personal place, and I didn't want someone else coming in and saying, switch this, take out that, blah, blah, blah. So I created a publishing house so that I could be so I can build something that I can eventually pass on to future generations down the line, and something that can house all of the work that I do here on out. And now I'm not opposed to traditionally publishing. I mean, I could see myself writing a memoir one day or something like that. But with Budding Rose Publications, which is the publishing house that houses all my creative works, I wanted to have something that can build generational wealth and to have something that I own. So that's the route that I took with both books, the poetry book and I Am Unique now.
Yeah. And then how long would you say it took you to say, okay, I'm gathering all this up to hitting like submit?
So what I did for the poetry book, it was a matter of me I'm definitely a hoarder, and I save all my projects and school assignments and that. So I went to my old flash drives that I've saved and paperwork and just typed up all of the old poems and things that I had written from elementary school. And I divided the book into elementary, junior high, high school, and college and beyond. And I categorized it that way. I also wrote some new poetry there. And I felt that I just hit send when I felt like it was complete. Like I like there was nothing else that I could have written. I felt like I poured my all into it. It was poems and short stories that I had written for 20 years worth of work. So I figured, okay, well, maybe if I want to do my channeled energy part 2, then I'll do that. But I felt like it was done. For I Am Unique, that story flowed out of me seamlessly, it felt like, because it stemmed from my childhood insecurity of having a birthmark. And I knew I wanted to create something that's not only, I don't want people to get hung up on the main character, Aaron, who has the birthmark, and this book is only for, I don't want people thinking like, oh, it's only for people who have birthmarks or something wrong with them. It's more for people to take it metaphorically and say whatever their birthmark is, whatever their insecurity is, to overcome it and share their gifts. So that process was from start to finish was 6 months, from like me writing it to me engaging with the illustrator and putting it together. So I don't have like a rhyme or reason how I get to the finishing point. It just feels like it's done and it's ready to go on to the next step.
Mm-hmm. And then for the I Am Unique, how did you find an illustrator, like one that had a style that would capture the essence of the book?
So I went to Google. I typed in representative artists, children's book illustrators. I specifically use the word representative artists because those are the illustrators and the people who draw and whose art looks like real people. I didn't want to go the cartoon route. I wanted it to be to depict real life people.
Wow. And so you found somebody and you were like, okay, this is it.
Yeah, I Googled a few people. I looked at their work, their previous work, and I really liked Penny Weber's art, who is the illustrator for I Am Unique. I reached out to her agents, and then we just negotiated how much it would cost to develop X amount of images and what the timeline would be. And it really was a seamless process working with her and her team.
And so how did you find a person to lay out your book, or did you end up laying out your book?
So I laid out the book myself using Adobe InDesign. So just wrote the book, and then I worked with the illustrator on what the vision was. And so I think she was really good at taking my words and descriptions of what I wanted the scene to look like and being able to do it far past my expectations. And so when she sent me the files, I was able to lay it out perfectly. Like, it was really a straightforward process. I'm really happy with her, and definitely will be using her for the other I Am Unique stories because we want to create a series out of it.
Very cool. And I think this is important for people to know too. I mean, because there's a couple of things here. It's like, one, when you have I think a lot of people have an idea, but then they don't take action on it, which is what you did. And then number two, sometimes I feel like people make things harder than they should be. Like, there might be somebody else out there listening like, oh my God, I've always had the idea for, a children's book, but it's like, well, write it. And then there's all these, yeah. And the magic of Google will help you like find other people like illustrators and such that could help you, make it come to life. So I love this story. And so with books, I feel like books can be tricky with like, as far as like sales, because it takes like selling a lot to like really generate like tons of income for you. Did you find that, with marketing and such, that at least you were able to like make back like what you've invested in it, or, as much as you're comfortable sharing, how do you find like the money wise of like the book business to be?
I find it to be, we have made back what we've spent. So what I find with authors, the number one mistake that they make, especially independent, I'll talk about the independent authors who choose to go the self-publishing route. The number one mistake is not building your audience before you launch. And that's the mistake that I made with My Channeled Energy, is that you write this book, you put all your blood, sweat, and tears into it. You hit that publish and it's out in the world, but marketing and building that audience and that community to let people know that, hey, you're here, that's what's commonly overlooked. And so when aspiring authors reach out to me, they ask me, well, how did you get your book out there? How did you get featured in Forbes and Black Enterprise? Like, how are you getting, this traction? And it's through constantly promoting yourself and finding who your ideal audience is and going to those places where they're at. That's commonly overlooked, and not taking the time to find who are your real customers, that can hurt you in the end. But I think also diversifying your income. So one of the things that I want to do, and I have a speaking engagement coming up next month, but is to diversify that income and to build your personal brand while you're building your book brand. So I will be doing more speaking engagements, talking about authorship or marketing as an independent creative. And then as far as the I Am Unique part, not only is it a book series, but we're creating several other streams around that, like product lines to help position Erin, the character, as a face of self-love. So we're working on an animated series. We're tapping into the toy industry because we want to make an 18-inch doll. We recently partnered with a Black-owned multicultural doll line, doll manufacturing firm, who will be helping us with that. And so it's really about diversifying what your offerings are, and that, because most of us can't rely on book sales alone unless we're a public figure, already have that built-in audience. But if you're starting from the ground up, it takes a lot of building and nurturing those relationships and communities.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's why I always tell people, because I published a journal and everybody's like, oh my God, that's so great. You like published this journal. You must be like rolling in the dough. And I'm like, whoa. Let's
right.
We're going to take a step back here. Okay.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of work. And I find that when people find out that all of this is required, I tell them writing the book is the easiest part, but are you willing to market it? Are you willing to put yourself out there, take yourself out of the equation and do live video or go to vendor events or events where you really need to be the face or put yourself out there? Are you willing to do those things? If not, your sales may or may not do the greatest. It requires a lot of growth, built and personal growth too.
Mm-hmm. And then as far as like marketing goes, like you touched on it a little bit, but I think that scares a lot of people and they're like, oh, nobody's going to care about what I'm doing. How do I get myself out there? But how were you able to really get yourself out there and get like your story, your books into like major, brands like Essence and so forth?
So we haven't been in Essence yet, but that is definitely a go-to. We have that on an outlet to reach out to. So the way that we've been able to get ourselves out there is 4 ways. And the first one is social media, namely Facebook and Instagram. They've been really powerful in helping to get our message out there. We've been able to reach places that we haven't even been ourselves. Like Aaron has been in Kenya and Uganda, England, the Philippines. Like people are asking, the power of digital media is beyond, it's almost beyond understanding how fast things can spread, with the use of hashtags. It can be easily shared. Things can easily go viral. So social media has been helpful. Also attending live events. So we go to events where our audience is, as I mentioned earlier. You need to be able to identify who your target audience is. Everyone isn't for you. Everyone is not going to be your customer. Friends and family are not your customers. Like you need to really do the work and find out who your real audience is. So we go to mom events that caters to moms, women empowerment, youth development, and then we set up shop there. We also pitch to media outlets, and so we share the story of how my birthmark inspired a self-love brand for kids, or how my former insecurity inspired a self-love brand for kids. That's usually how we try to position ourselves in front of media outlets that might be in line with our messaging. And as a result of our pitching, we've been featured in Forbes and Black Enterprise, Exo Nicole. And when we are positioned in front of larger audiences, more likely that our work is going to be shared. And I know this works because when we go to events, people will come up to me and say, oh, I've seen this before. I've seen Aaron before. I know my friend DM'd me this and I should check it out. So the power of social media and just, what's the word? Word of mouth and just grassroots efforts that has helped. And then also brand and influencer partnerships have helped, where we align with people who have similar messaging. And I don't know if you know or are familiar with the McClure twins. They have a YouTube page and Facebook page, but they are we worked with them last year, and they were kind enough to do a video featuring our book and the importance of self-love and embracing your uniqueness. So those four things, so those 4 things all together have helped to get our message out there. And sharing, when I always tell people, like the best way that you can help us grow and to be and to spread that message of self-love is to share with your friends and share with, if you see us promoting something, to share it with people that may connect with it. You never
Sharing
know who's
is
watching.
Caring.
Yes.
And then I also wanted to ask you about the audiobook. So I think sometimes people slip on that part of the industry. Like they're like, okay, I've got this print book out. I might have it in soft copy, hard copy. Okay, that's it. I'm done. But the audiobook industry is like huge. So what made you decide to do an audiobook version?
So I wanted to do an audiobook version to we wanted to build our mailing list and to build our audience. And that's one of the things that I tell people who who are interested in building their brands as an independent author is you have to have something to offer or create some sort of lead. That's the audiobook is our lead magnet. And so we offer that in exchange for email addresses so that we can build our mailing list, because if Instagram goes away or Facebook goes away, like we won't have any way of contacting people who have supported us. And so the audiobook version, we offer that for free on our website so that people can sign up, listen to the audio version, and likely buy the physical version.
Very cool. And smart.
Then we also have other freebies too, like a couple pages out of our upcoming coloring and activity book that we'll be putting out. But just to show people that here's what's coming, be a part of our community, and you won't be disappointed.
Yes. And I cannot stress enough, folks, the power of having an email list because I think people are too dependent on like their Instagram followers, and all it takes is Instagram blocking your account, or something wonky happened for some reason you can't log in because someone has hacked into your account. And then it's like, what are you going to do when all of your followers are gone? But like an email list is gold because you're talking directly to your people. You own that list. So I think sometimes it's scary because people are like, well, okay, I'll get this email list, but what do I have to say? And so it's like generating that content. They're just like, ooh. But I'm like, just collect the emails. You'll figure out what to say,
Or what we do is our monthly newsletters, letting people know what's coming, what events we'll be a part of, or topics that make sense for I Am Unique. Like we talk about self-love, or we talk about new blog posts that are coming up, and then we also had this campaign that was going on in 2017 called the hashtag I Am Unique 2 campaign, where girls and women shared what makes them unique. And so we talked about that in the newsletter. So I think a tip would be to talk about things that or themes that are relevant to your brand. And also letting them know, bring them along the journey. Where are you going to be next?
And then also, what have been, some of the challenges along the way? Any lessons learned that you could pass on to people?
Well, I think earlier in my journey, I was getting wrapped up in the fire your boss type of mentality, or like leave your 9 to 5. And I invested in business coaches, a business coach who was not, how should I word this? She has not been where I was trying to go. That was the mistake that I made, where I was sucked into the marketing of it. Like, yes, I want to leave my job and she can help me to do this in X amount of time. But in actuality, she didn't know how, like the vision that I had for my brand and business, she hasn't done it herself. And that goes for anybody. If you want to invest in a coach or a mentor or somebody, make sure that they have been where you're trying to go. That was the biggest learning lesson. She has a service-based business, and I have primarily a product-based business. Like there are several differences, but I don't get caught up in the bells and whistles of it all. Just really focus on the end goal and do they have results in the area that you need the most help?
I think that advice is gold right there. And that really resonates with me too, because as someone who's like invested in training and coaching and so forth, and some have really clicked where others I was like, ooh, it wasn't quite, and it wasn't like they were bad. It was just kind of like what you were saying. They might not have truly understood where I wanted to go. And so even though they have been successful in X, Y, and Z, their path wasn't going to help mine because it was two different paths, right? I mean, everybody's paths are different, but at least there needs to be some similarities. So when something comes up, they could give you advice to help you,
Right. Yeah. And it'll definitely make your investment worthwhile. Like the mistake I made was spending so much money, but not getting the results that I desired because it just wasn't a good fit to begin with.
Mm-hmm. Now, question. So did you decide to stay in HR? Like, do you continue to work your 9 to 5, or did you eventually say like, no, I'm going to do this full time?
So after a recent layoff last year in HR, I was still working in the field of HR, but after a recent layoff, I decided to fully focus on building the I Am Unique brand and just seeing how far I can go. You know, I'm not opposed to going back to work or working a 9 to 5. Like definitely don't want to villainize working in corporate America. It definitely has built up my skill sets and discipline. But right now I'm fully focused on I Am Unique.
Yeah. And so for you, because I know in talking to a lot of entrepreneurs, those that do it as a side hustle and those have, quit their 9 to 5, or situations like yours where they've been laid off or for whatever reason, like they're no longer without a job. They're just like, I feel like all of them have one thing in common where they're just like, oh my God, now I am fully responsible for paying my rent, mortgage, utilities, which is kind of scary because with the nice thing about a corporate job, right, is you every 2 weeks, boom, it hits your, checking account, and there's just something calming about that. And so for you, like when you decided like, okay, so now I have to make even more money to pay my bills. Like, how did you get through that and work through that?
I'm still working through it. I definitely have my ups and downs it's definitely a mental shift and an emotional experience. So I have money saved up. And so that's what I use to help supplement the expenses. But I definitely am working on I do work with a budget. And so I'm not overspending, and I'm just being mindful about where my money is going. And I try to focus on income generating activities so that I'm not just blowing my savings, just trying to make more smart decisions. I'll probably be able to report back on how that's going. But right now it's definitely a mindset shift that you have to realize, like, you are dependent on yourself to make this money. And one of the things that I'm passionate about is generating multiple streams that even with one 9 to 5, especially with how student loans are and like just the debt in our like economy, I want to be able to be in a position to where if I lose one stream, that I at least have other things to supplement my livelihood, and I'm not just at the mercy of the world.
No, I love that, especially that phrase you used, the income generating activities, because I was just talking to someone last night on an interview just about that, because I said sometimes when we're in a 9 to 5 still, we get comfortable. And so we start to kind of lose sight that we're running a business on the side. And we're like, oh, it's okay if it's not making money yet, when we should really be looking for those activities, right? For when the day comes when maybe we are doing this full time, or just to make sure that we're paying or we're generating enough income just to keep this business afloat and a little bit more, right? And so I think sometimes people lose sight of that, especially when they have a 9 to 5, but then it becomes even more important when this is now like your single source of income. So thank you for sharing that. And so before we get to the wrap up questions, so what's next? I mean, you touched on it a little bit, like the doll, but I just want to know what is next for I Am Unique.
Yes, what's next is continuing to build the brand. Like, just like how you see Dora the Explorer, Doc McStuffin, or characters like that, where you see them, have seen them everywhere, and they're on our TVs, they're on our merchandise. That's what we're positioning Erin to be. We haven't seen a character out there like her who really talks about insecurities, who did overcome her insecurity and was able to share her gifts. We want to be able to have that narrative throughout all of the products that we do work on, where she's inspiring other kids to overcome their insecurities and share their gifts. So you'll see that in You'll see that in the entertainment industry. We are working on getting Aaron or the I Am Unique animated series up and running. Like, we are working with an animator right now, and we want to eventually pitch later this year to people in the development team to hopefully have her on your favorite video streaming platform. So that is in the works. We also, as mentioned, we're working with the toy manufacturing and design firm to eventually have an Aaron doll, and continuing to do events where it fits, like where mothers are, where people who care about women and empowerment. We also are working on more books in the series. As mentioned, Erin, in the first book, she overcomes her insecurity, but in the subsequent series, she's going to be connecting with other characters in the book and helping them share their gifts.
Well, I have nieces, 5 nieces from ages 4 to 13, all girls. I mean, well, nieces clearly, but I can't wait to share this with them, and I can't wait to see what you do in just like the animation or video space too, because it's funny, even when I was home in Chicago, where I'm from, just seeing what they watch on YouTube, they are addicted, okay, to like these videos on YouTube. So I could just see them eating up the Erin character, who's like super cute, super relatable. All my nieces have natural hair, right? So I feel like they'll be able to like resonate with her. Plus there is a message, like whatever is unique about you that maybe, they might have insecurities about, even, which is weird. It's like, oh, they're a kid, they shouldn't have insecurities, but kids are mean at school. If something is different about them that really stand out for others, it does become an insecurity. So I just see them watching this and then gaining more confidence over time,
Yeah. Yeah. So they don't grow up as adults harboring those same, insecurities that they might have first exhibited when they were younger. I've seen that a lot with women who approach me about the book, and they don't have kids or any nieces or anybody to give it to, but they buy it for themselves as healing. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause I mean, I feel like for the most part, everybody has like that thing that was like a little awkward growing up. Like I recently did an interview and it was with a fellow tall girl, and she has a tall podcast, The Height Goddess, and it's all about growing up tall, which can be awkward because you're like always the tallest in your class, and you're always at the end of the line, and if you don't learn to like embrace that, then you see like these women in their 30s or whatever that are hunched over or not confident or think they can't get a guy because they're too awkward because they haven't embraced their tallness. I mean, it could be anything. Somebody being too short, tall, having a birthmark, don't like their hair, whatever it is, right? But it's so important to like become one with it. But if we can get women and males when they're children to like love themselves, then that they just become better adults that love each other, love themselves more.
Exactly.
Well, cool. So just a few wrap-up questions. How do you stay organized?
I love Google Calendar. Like, I live by it. If it's not on my calendar, it really doesn't happen. And I also keep a large whiteboard. So I put I write my to-do list with a checkbox next to it for the day. So those 2 things have really helped.
Love it. And then what's your favorite tool or software?
The G Suite, like Google for Business, is helpful. I love the fact that I'm able to share documents and collaborate on things in the Drive with my business partner. So that's helpful. And then also the Adobe Creative Cloud. We use Photoshop, InDesign, Illustrator, and Premiere the most in that Creative Cloud suite. So those are 2 powerful tools.
And just let the listeners know where they can find you. Please share your products, your website, any social media handles, events, whatever you'd like to share. Please let them know where they can find you.
Okay, so on social media, it's I Am Unique Book everywhere, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We just recently started a Pinterest account, so give us a follow there. And the website is www.imuniquebrand.com. And if you're interested in following my personal brand, it's Jennifer D. Vassal everywhere on social.
Perfect. Well, Jennifer, thank you for sharing your knowledge and things that you've learned through the years. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
What did I tell you guys? Gold, right? Oh my goodness. All the nuggets. I can't even go through them all. Head on over to the show notes for the Cliff Notes version of this, nachesnow.com/81. And I've taken some of her highlights, like the tips for independent authors, like building an audience and community, promoting yourself, find your ideal audience, taking time to find your real customers. Like I got all of that over there. I love the part where she's like, what are you willing to do? That's always the question, right? How far are you willing to go for the thing you want to put out there in the world? I love it. And then I also took notes on her 4 ways of marketing: the social, the live events, the media outlets, partnerships. I think all of those things, when you figure them out and you actually take action, then you will definitely see traction in your business. And I just love that she's out here promoting this message of self-love and affecting the lives of others. I think that's amazing. All of the links that she mentioned, from the Illustrator to the McClure twins, I've got all of that in the show notes, nachesnow.com/81. I've got links to the articles she's been featured in and all the things. So definitely head on over there. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you do, please definitely respond to my post over on IG or Facebook or Twitter. And yeah, just let Jennifer know that you support her and love what she's doing. I think we all have to make sure that we are supporting each other. All right. And if you want to learn more about the class on time management that I mentioned earlier, remember to also head on over to nachesnow.com/time. All right. That's all, folks. I have another amazing guest coming up next week. Have a beautiful week. Take care. Bye.